Thank you. So as we come back into this space, thank you for joining. Again, let's just check your motivation. Check the intention. Great little positioning for the mind, little repositioning for the mind again. We tend to just launch into something. You don't have any intention. What am I doing? Let's go back, center yourself. So just take a moment. Just close your eyes. We're back in the space. This is part of your self-caring, is to make sure you're centered and balanced and that you are directing your awareness where you'd like it to go. So take a moment and reestablish that kind, positive intention for the rest of this class and all the activities of the rest of your day. Let's just remember part of our practice yesterday with Chenrezig. Zig. It is ever an internal practice that informs your external practice. In this sense, they're merged together. So remember, instead of going through the whole visualization, imagine Chenrezig is on your crown right now, facing the same direction as you. He's a few inches in height, beautiful, radiant, crystal being with a delightful smile on his face. He's seated in the Vajra position. One face and four arms. First two arms are joined at the heart, holding a precious, wish-fulfilling jewel. Second right hand holds a crystal rosary. Second left hand holds a beautiful lotus flower. He's draped in beautiful silks, adorned with beautiful jewels. He's fully empowered to help not only drive away, wash out the obscurations to our being compassionate to ourselves and others, but he grants us all those blessings and realizations. So imagine he has at his heart center this tiny moon disk lying flat on a lotus flower. In the center of the moon is the syllable Shri, H-R-I, his seed syllable, his object of concentration. A little circle clockwise standing right around the Shri is Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of the short mantra of the Buddha of compassion, in the nature of radiant light. Outside that, a larger white circle on the edge of the moon disk of his long mantra, standing upright, clockwise. Imagine the light rays go out from his heart to the very beyond the edges of the universe, calling forth all the Chenrezigs that will breathe life into him, into the visualization, reside. And they come all the way back, entering him, invigorating him for this practice. He's very happy to help us. And from your heart, make a request to Guru Chenrezig this infinite manifestation of compassion over top your crown to help you with whatever it is you need right now. Chenresig is very happy to help us. And imagine light and nectar now activated from the Shri syllable and the mantra garland in his tiny heart begins to radiate out through his entire being. Overflowing through the pores of his body and then down through the crown of our heads. Purifying, washing away any obscurations to generating love and compassion, granting us all the blessings and realizations of his holy body, speech, and mind. Just try to keep this visualization going while we recite some mantras. Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So just make a determination in your heart. I will try as best as I can to generate compassion in my heart in the face of suffering and try to reach a path to maximize reaching the goal and the end of that path so I can be able perfectly to lead others out of their suffering, to enlightenment as well, and free others of their suffering. And Chenresig is very happy. Imagine him dissolving from the edge of the visualization into the center, along with the lotus and the moon disk, mantra garlands, into a radiant crystal drop of light. Imagine it comes to your crown, slowly melting into your crown and dissolving to your heart. And just dissolving any ordinary view and any ordinary concepts you have. Reflect on emptiness as best as you can. Whatever I appears to be arising, whatever strong sense of yourself, independent, concretely existing, from its own side, with its own value, its own nature, that I doesn't exist at all. That I does not exist at all. It's a complete hallucination. It's a complete hallucination. And then you trust that. From the emptiness, we arise in our ordinary form, here in this room, and slowly relax, and when you're ready, please open your eyes. So that didn't take very long, that practice. So that's a little bit more abbreviated version of this. So again, you have to be, as you mature in your practice, you adapt so that you want to make your practice something that you're realistically going to do. And sometimes when we're newer, we're setting up a practice, people ask me, like, how many hours do you spend a day? Right? So there isn't a time allotment. It's not really like that. It's better not to think of that, but those are the kind of creatures we are. You know, I need to know how much time. How much time do I need? It's your mind. So if you want freedom, you might spend more time. You don't want freedom, spend less time. It's your choice. Right? But it really works that way. And I know we're busy and we have a lot of active things going on in life. It's really about your priorities. It's that simple. I do know people that, tried a little bit of practice. Get something going that is realistic for you to do consistently. It's not at times, it's something consistently. When you start to see the benefit in your mind, you want to do more of it. It's that simple. But it's hard because a lot of our societies are telling us to do other things. So I know it's a challenge. I've been there. I'm still there, right? We try our best. So sometimes you see these booklets, you go, I can't, it's just too many prayers, forget it, right? So look through a booklet, you get familiar. That's why I did a little bit more slowly yesterday. You get familiar. Then in my own time, I don't have time to do that prayer, so I'm just going to skip it and go on. That's your wisdom. That's developing your wisdom. Be practical. How was your self-care last night? Anybody think about it or remember? I didn't do very well last night, but it was just a busy day. How did it go? Self-compassion, self-care, yes, please.
I appreciated that assignment, and I had decided before I left I was going to try the rejoicing because that would be really easy. That was really hard because I was trying to rejoice, and I've done a few good things here and there, but I would think, good job on this, but you really should have done that sooner. You should, there was scolding that went along with that, which made me know I needed to practice that. that rejoicing part.
Thank you. It's a great one, because see, the thing about practice, when you start doing practice like that and you get honest with yourself, you have to practice to suddenly see what's not working. Until you get in there, you don't know. Like that. And also Dharma, just to let you know, some of you have been at this for a while, so you know, but Dharma practice in the beginning, it's like you've got a nice clear glass of water. It looks pretty good. That's my life. But what I don't notice at the bottom is there's a skanky little thing of grit and dirt at the bottom. But I don't really have to focus on that, because I got a clear glass of water, and then the Dharma puts a stirrer in, stirs it up. So initially, I'm kind of going, what happened here? I got caca now. I had a nice clear glass of water, but that's the beginning. You stir it up, and then you go, oh, okay. But that's great. That's great work like that, to say, I'm still really laying it on me. So you start with rejoicing and notice the other stuff. Sometimes I'll notice the shoulds, the negative, whatever, and then I know, oh, that's an old story now. It's an old story, and watch it drift away. Like I almost unhinge it from the boat, release the rope, and it just floats away. I don't need it anymore. No. Those of you of the younger generation, your MP3 players, and we're all listening to music on our phones or whatever, and you can just delete a song you don't want anymore. It's like that. You can think of, sometimes I talk about when you tape something. Remember that? Taping? Tape recorders. My niece looked at me. She's like, what's that? So we would, throw the tape out, but now you can delete. You can just hit a delete button, and there goes that thought that I don't really need anymore. No problem. Whoops. Sorry. Just want to charge up this. Okay. So thank you. So it's interesting to do. Rejoicing is a wonderful self-care thing, because you're kind of like, it's an easy thing to do. You think of something good that somebody's doing. I like to think, for instance, this center, all the wonderful things they do and what they've created here. It, like I said this morning, it's one of the stronger centers we have. And sorry, technology problems. Somehow my phone is not working with this. Maybe the cable. It's a wonderful center. So I just think of centers like this and go, oh, how cool, and all the people, it's just a positive uplifting for the mind. And then you practice, if you're not a natural rejoicer, to slowly start to find positive. That's great. That's really great. That's really great. And one thing I wanted to mention, how many of you were here this morning? Okay, so you heard my thing about the center. Help the center, please. No, but I really mean that sincerely, because I've been at the helm sometimes, and it's hard, and people go, oh, I think everything's okay, right? It was very cute last night. Some of us talked, and here you have one side of the room, somebody involved. It's just great. I know they don't need any volunteers. This is somebody's impression, and then there's somebody on the other side of the room that I had heard something different from, who's very involved with the center, who'd been saying we really need volunteers. And I said, so you guys need to talk to each other, because there's some disconnect here. And then it was like sharing information, and then the other person said, okay, so now I understand you need volunteers. It was helpful, like that. It happens all the time. You come in, they see the centers, everything's set here, like that. So it's interesting. Any other experiences? Your self-care, self-compassion? The key to self-acceptance. It says, but this morning we talked about forgiveness, but the key to self-acceptance is having compassion for yourself. And that's where compassion for others starts. Renunciation, I really think, the first of the three principles of the path, renunciation. What are the other two principles? Emptiness is the third. What's the second one? Bodhicitta. The three principles of the path are renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. And that takes you through the whole path. All the Lamrim teachings fit into that. So renunciation, I really believe the beginning of it is having compassion for yourself. Why? You realize that some of your current unhealthy patterns you have had enough. And when you actually say, I've had enough of that, like something needs to stop, I can't do this anymore, that's the beginning of renunciation. And traditionally, they'll say true renunciation is when you strive day and night to get out of samsara. And it's at that point you enter the first path to enlightenment, the path of accumulation, where you're accumulating the conditions to get enlightened. Okay? Okay. Having compassion for yourself. Modern culture, I think, makes it difficult to have compassion for yourself. Some people feel guilty, and they feel like it's not okay, it's not allowed. I'm just going to position some cushions in the office at the break, and I'm going to lay down and sleep there. And I want to say, nice try, okay? Go home and rest. You deserve it. Okay, you do deserve it. And the thing is, I think each of you knows the fine line where you do need a break, deservedly so, or when you're overindulging. Does anybody here not know that line for themselves? I think we pretty much have it. You're pretty honest with yourself, like that. So there's no problem, because what happens is when you're rested, when you're getting self-care properly, it's me acknowledging that I have limitations. You can't do everything. You can't. Even Lama Zopa Rinpoche to me some years ago, because he's trapped, this highly enlightened mind trapped in this aging body, what seems to be an aging body on our level. That's what we see. And he said, it's difficult now, the body. Having the body slow him down. A body with high blood pressure, manifesting adult onset diabetes, manifesting a stroke a few years ago. It's difficult, right? His mind, no problem, but so we need to take care. And as ordinary beings, we really need to take care. But I don't lose my intention. Then you take care, and when you come out renewed, however you like to renew yourself, then I have more to give. If you're not taking care, somebody asks me a question, I'm resentful, and I snap at them. That's really helpful. That could be the only time that person comes to the Dharma Center. Now I snapped at them, and they go, wow, Buddhists. I'm not going back there. That's scary. Okay. So we mentioned also self-compassion is not narcissistic self-absorption. So that's not self-compassion. That's a misunderstanding. It's not self-pity. Pity a little bit gets caught up in the problems, feeling sorry for yourself without a remedy for it. You become oblivious to the world around you. When we pity others, we make them victims. Sympathy gets into this a little bit. Sympathy is not empathy. Sympathy is a little bit like, I'm sorry for you, but I'm not going to go there with you. Really sorry for you. Empathy is a little bit like, people, I was very touching. The woman who was here this morning, who's really going through something right now, at the end of the teaching, many people went over to her and hugged her. That's kind of being with you. Like, you're going through something really uncomfortable, and you know what? It makes me a little uncomfortable. And I can't really fix it. And I might not even know what to say, but I'm going to give you a hug. I'm going to stand with you. That's empathy. Sympathy is like, I'm very sorry that you're going through that. So, you certainly can say you're very sorry to people, but it's not engaging any further, wanting to walk with the person. Self-pity is a form of self-absorption. I'll take questions in a moment. Whereas self-compassion allows you to see your difficulties within a larger context, again, here comes these words, shared humanity or shared human existence. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. So don't alienate and isolate yourself and separate, and don't push somebody else away and make them other and I hate you. You think differently than I do? I don't want that. If somebody thinks differently than you, maybe it can expand your consciousness. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but expands your consciousness to consider, well, so that's how those people think. Okay, that's interesting. Because of its narrow zoom lens vision, self-pity tends to blow up your situation. So even a small problem appears overwhelming. Okay? Whereas self-compassion gives you a sense of perspective and proportion. Helps you deal with a predicament with constructive ways. Your eyes are open. You're more awake. Self-pity gets into guilt. The guilt mindset comes from that. Ruminating, a negative ruminating in the mind. Where does guilt go? It obsessively circles. It doesn't have any remedies or any positive thing. Different than regret. Different than regret. Regret, I'm considering the thing with my eyes open. I'm taking responsibility. I harmed this person. I feel awful. I might even cry that I have so much regret, but now I'm going to do a practice. It's active. Now I'm going to do something to purify. I'm actually going to also apologize to the person, and I've got a little remedial action I'm going to do tomorrow when I see them. I'm going to make sure I'm practicing patience at that moment when I'm around them. See the difference? Okay, guilt is just again and again, oh, woe is me, I did it, it's horrible. If you die in that moment, Rinpoche said to us once, very bad, like that. But we are kind of, our cultures, what is it, Judeo-Christian culture, this is how I was raised, and there's a joke about the Jews and the Catholics got together to start, a university or something, Our Lady of Perpetual Guilt. Isn't that how it operates, right? That was my experience. And you learn it. You learn it from parents who learn it from grandparents. So there's a little bit of that genetic material, but there's just the environmental conditioning. So you respond how they did sometimes, okay? Self-compassion isn't self-gratification. So, for instance, you think self-compassion is an impulse, I'm going to treat myself. So I'm going to eat the entire pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Remember when we used to do that? I'm going to eat the whole pint. That I deserve that. But what happens later, you realize, then you feel worse about it. That wasn't what you wanted to do. So you could have it, and later what you'll do is beat yourself up because you ate the whole pint. So have a treat, but can we moderate a little bit so that later I'm not going to feel worse than, so it doesn't get into that kind of self-gratification. And let me talk about self-esteem, the difference. With self-compassion, we relate to ourselves, especially our struggles and failures. This is from Thupten Jinpa. With understanding, kindness, and acceptance. Self-compassion is a gentle, caring, clear-seeing, non-judgmental orientation of our heart and mind toward our suffering and our needs. Like, I'm really tired right now. I need a break. The best thing for me would be to go back to my apartment and lay down because I'm very tired right now, and understanding that gently, kindly, practically. Okay, self-esteem, on the other hand, is self-regard based on self-evaluation. So I'm checking, and it's okay to self-evaluate, to have healthy self-esteem. But what happens is the self-evaluation for a lot of us, we are patterned to self-criticize, overly self-criticize, not just self-evaluate. Self-evaluate's one thing. Behavior happens, and I look and I go, wow, why was I rude to that person? Why did I say that? And I'm going to check up thoroughly on that. That's self-evaluation in a positive way. Oh, well, I was really tired. There were too many people. We were late. This happened. That woman always comes at the end, that kind of thing. So I'm just evaluating like that. The self-criticism would be, God, I can never say anything right to anybody. I did it again. I'm horrible. I'm terrible. Like that. So again, self-esteem comes from where we are evaluating each other, and you want to keep it in as an honest a framework, positivity, like that. So, is it possible to have benefits associated with high self-esteem or positive self-esteem, confidence, optimism, for example, without the negative side effects? Can self-esteem and self-compassion be compatible? So Jinpa says if self-esteem is achieved as a byproduct rather than you pursue it directly for its own sake, because I want everyone to like me and I'll be confident and I'll be able to be really successful. That might be a misdirected pursuit. But if it comes as a byproduct where I'm feeling good, I feel like there's a lot of meaning in life, things are working well, seems to be benefiting people, I'm okay. I'm checking up on how it's going, and it's going well. And that gives me confidence. That's different. So what happens, the active ingredient we want from self-esteem is to like ourselves. Okay? And we're not trying to promote ourselves. We're not trying to perfect ourselves like that. Self-liking, liking yourself implies an easygoing peace with yourself. How many of you have that? An easygoing peace with yourself. Good. Nice. Very nice, right? So the self-liking that comes from self-compassion doesn't have pride in it. It's balanced. It doesn't have pride. It's not like hey, I'm great. Okay. Self-compassion combines self-worth and then genuine humility. So there's humility with self-compassion. Why? I'm limited, just like everybody else. That means I need to take a break now. That means I deserve to do this right now, this activity. I'm going for my walk. I'm going for my walk. Because if I don't get my walk, I'm going to be a little cranky because that's just how I get. And like everybody else. Like that. Because I do want to eat the chocolate because I love chocolate. And it's a nice thing. Nice experience. I enjoy it. I deserve it. Like that. Okay, so question? You had a question? Comment?
It's not exactly on topic, so please, when you say Lama Zopa Rinpoche manifests a stroke, I've kind of walked around assuming I understood what that meant, but I really don't. So even though it's an aside, since he's such a holy being guiding us, could you just take a minute and explain what that means?
For me, I tend to say if a high being, I see Rinpoche as a highly realized being, if somebody like that becomes ill, they say it's more beneficial. Instead of saying he had a stroke, he has diabetes, you want to see them as highly realized, that they have no problems. It's better for your mind. So I think Rinpoche manifests certain behavior just to teach us. So, and the other thing is they say it's due to the karma of the students that a teacher will manifest flaws and mistakes and illness and things like that. If you see them as a Buddha, if you see them as a perfect being, is the way I like to see Rinpoche. So then if there is a mistake that appears outside, my mind I know is limited. So it would be from the side of my mind being flawed. They say it's better to view your guru like that. So you don't want to see mistakes in them and then start criticizing them and finding fault. It doesn't mean you don't check up thoroughly on your guru, which I've done. I'm convinced. I've checked up on him for years before I really took him as a teacher. And I'm convinced. So what he does is, I think the stroke, my experience of how he manifests, so I just say he manifested a stroke. My experience of that, I wasn't with Rinpoche. I was running a center at the time across the world, and the information I was getting about his seeming illness, I don't think he missed a beat. Mentally, not at all. I don't think he was there the whole time. His body was manifesting something different, and he was partially paralyzed, and that lasted a while. He still has a limp because of it. So I really think it motivated a lot of students to practice. And we're pretty lazy. So because of that, the teacher's going to check out. If you don't really rely on the teacher and you don't follow their advice, then you don't need a teacher to be around. And they're going to go someplace else where people are practicing. It sounds harsh, but that's my reality with it.
Well, no, I really
Yeah.
appreciate
So that's just my take on it. I don't know if other people have other experiences around that. But that's just my belief about it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. In cultivating self-compassion, just to go on a little bit more with this, we don't evaluate ourselves according to worldly success, and that's challenging in our world system. You don't compare yourself to other beings. Instead, you acknowledge your own shortcomings, your own limitations. Okay? And I do it with patience, understanding, and kindness. I'm not criticizing and laying a trip on myself. I can't do this, I can't do that. I should have been there yesterday. I should have been more available. And no, I'm just kind of going, I'm limited. I'm tired now. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I need a break. I'm going home. Or no, I'm not able to take on that project. You know. And I'm being realistic with myself. That's self-compassion. And again, viewing your problems within the larger context of the shared human condition. That brings in your intention and motivation. I don't want to lose sight of that. I don't want to lose sight of that. So again, I'm limited. This is the best I can do. If I start saying, well, she can do it. No, I'm kind of gently. That's great that you can do that. Here comes the rejoicing. That's so great that she's available to do it. Right now, I'm kind of done. You know, so I've got this shared human thing. It's great she can do it because there's all these other people that need help. When I get a break and get a rest, then I'll be back. And all these other people feel that way too. So if I set an example by practicing good self-compassion, then maybe other people see that as well and realize it's okay. If you've ever been a boss and you don't take a break and you start riding your employees and driving people or anybody you work with, and then a little bit when they want to go home and you're like, you know, then people see that and then they get resentful at you and then they think that you're on some holy trip, you know, you're, you know, higher than them and it creates a lot of dissension in workplaces. So it's often important for the boss, but even for other people, to lead a balanced life. You can do just as much work. I remember I have a friend who's a lawyer, big corporate law firm in Seattle, and he's got 4 kids. And when he worked there, he was hired as a partner. He's a very bright guy. He was hired as a partner. He's a very nice guy as well. And when he came in, the first thing that he set with them is, if you do hire me, I'd really like to work here. I really like the job. They had great interviews and things. And he said, I'm on the 5 o'clock ferry home. I'm not working till 8 at night. He said, I can't. He goes, I've got 4 kids. My family is very important to me. That was his boundary. He said, I'm going to work the best for you. It's going to be great, but I have to be on the 5:10 ferry home. Is that a problem? And they said no. And it's been great. Right? They love him. He's done great stuff for them. So I think that's healthy self-compassion, which leads to his healthy self-esteem. And then you see where the lack of self-compassion, loathing, self-hatred, we see it in many, many forms. I mean, I guess one of my things, if there's some people challenged by the current administration, by the new president, like, I guess I just think of if he's coming out with saying something negative to someone, I'm not judging him good or bad, right? If it sounds like he says something in the news that's taking somebody down or heavily criticizing, where do you think it comes from? People heavily criticizing him. For many years, you don't just develop that behavior. It's a defense mechanism. Natural posturing yourself. Again, evaluating based on competitiveness and everybody else's successes and like that. It's just natural. A lot of people do it. It's nothing unusual. We all do it, actually. We're all in this shared humanity again. So it helps me to kind of extend my heart to say, wow, that's a tough position to be in, because now you're president of the United States where all the fingers are pointed at you. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that, and I'm not that sensitive to what people think about me. Sometimes I am, but not, you know, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, can criticize me, but okay, I might learn from it, but it's not going to take me down. So imagine being very sensitive to that, which I think our president is. I feel for him. I really feel for him, because I used to be that way. I used to be much more that way, and it was horrible. And then you're the president of the United States. I was a center director. It was bad enough like that. Glenna remembers. She was there at Vajrapani with me. You know, it was, what was it? When something went well, everybody else took credit. When it didn't go well, it was my fault. That's how it was. That's just how it was, you know. And Roger said to me at the beginning, you just know the top of your resume is object of criticism. Then it'll be easier for you. That's tough. And that was just a little Dharma center. So I have a lot of compassion for Donald Trump, the position that he's in, and all eyes are on him. That's heavy. That's a big burden. You say, well, he wanted the burden, I'm not sure he wanted it. I don't know if he thought he was going to be in these shoes, but he's got it now. He's the guy, and I think, that my heart goes out to him. I'm like, wow. Doesn't mean I have to agree with everything he says, but this is about us connecting again, connecting out there. Okay. I want to ask you a few questions. This is from psychologist Kristen Neff from A Fearless Heart. Jimpa mentions this. She's a psychologist that talks about, she has a systematic scientific approach to self-compassion. So these are some questions, and she has a whole evaluation you can go online and search of a thing. I just want you to ask, and what she bases things in, 3 areas she works in: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. How you can practice self-compassion through self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. So self-kindness is relating to our shortcomings and difficulties with kindness, non-judgment, acceptance, understanding, like that, right, rather than a negative judgment. Common humanity for her is how we perceive our problems and suffering within this context of the shared human experience. Mindfulness, the ability to hold the painful experiences with awareness, okay, instead of over-elaborating on them, ruminating, over-identifying with them through obsessive thinking, which we often do, the worry, like that. Not concern, but ruminating mind, or the over-identifying with them so that we want to desperately fix it. I got to fix it. Has to be fixable. Okay, so here's some questions. I want you to just reflect on this for a moment. Do you agree, disagree, strongly agree, strongly disagree, or don't have an opinion about these statements? Here's number 1. Just to give this is your little self-compassion test, okay? I try to be understanding and patient toward those aspects of my personality I don't like. I try to be understanding and patient toward those aspects of my personality I don't like. So that relates to self-kindness. Here's a second one. When I'm going through a very hard time, I give myself the caring and tenderness I need. How's that working for you? This is related to common humanity. When I feel inadequate in some way, I try to remind myself that feelings of inadequacy are shared by most people. And we were doing some work in some communities. If there are communities, and I'm not saying this is all of you at all, that are rattled by what happened post-election, or the situation that we're now in, and not everybody feels that way, okay? But when I go through this one, when I feel inadequate in some way, I try to remind myself that feelings of inadequacy are shared by most people. So sometimes when I think, and I hear people, upset about this, or they hear about this, or they hear about this, the president and the cabinet now, or the people that are slowly getting confirmed by the Senate and the House, they're not really clear either what to do. That some of them have strong views and they have some agendas, but it doesn't seem to be clear with everything that's going on, and little bits of this filter down. So an example I have, and again, it can change. It changes all the time anyway. We have this Affordable Care Act for healthcare, okay? It's not perfect by any means. You have to start somewhere. So it started. The same thing with Medicare, when they started Medicare. Everybody railed against it, not going to work. It was very bumpy in the beginning, okay? Affordable Care Act, they started something. A lot of people have signed up for it. For some people it's expensive. For some people it's perfect, like this. I do know some people that with cancer drugs, and they're finally getting health care with cancer drugs that they need, that they couldn't do before, And so, okay, so then a new administration comes in and says, we're going to dismantle it. We're going to do away with it. Okay, let's try something else, you know. So it seems like right now they don't have an idea of what to do. They don't have all the solution of what to replace it with. And they realize by dismantling it, all these people are going to be left without health care suddenly. So suddenly the news has shifted to the travel ban. The ACA's gone out of the news. So now granted, the media has a role in this as well, as do we, but I don't think they really know exactly how to sort it yet. They haven't figured it out. That when they do figure it out, they'll come out with something and say, this is what we're going to do, and we'll vote against it, and we'll, fair enough. You know, they need to have a shake at it. But like that, so I from my feeling of inadequate, I go, wow, what would it be like if I've got jobs like that? You know, that's challenging. So again, this is about opening your heart. And it starts with me understanding my inadequacy, and then I reach across and go, what would it be like to be in the cabinet? And you don't have all the answers. And none of them have all the answers, unless they're enlightened. And maybe they're enlightened. Maybe there's some omniscient beings in the cabinet. I'd like to think so. So we'll see. We'll see what they come up with. But so as a result of that, it helps me feel more compassion to them. My heart reaches over to them, that they're human beings just like me, bumbling along just like me. Probably, I'd like to think, trying their best. With the information they have, they're probably trying their best. You know, based on their, like, don't you try your best with your view? Yeah, that's all you can do. That's what they're doing. Not very different than me. Okay? Here's another one. When things are going badly for me, I see the difficulties as part of life that everyone goes through. Do you? When I'm feeling down, I try to approach my feelings with curiosity and openness. And here's the last one. This is related to mindfulness. When I fail at something important to me, I try to keep things in perspective. Yeah, right. Right? But it's helpful because these give you some ideas of, oh, when I messed up at something, can I try to keep it in perspective? That would be a healthier way to view it. You know, because we mess up. Make sense? So they're interesting things to explore, to slowly work your way. Like it would be interesting when you feel down. We all have that moments we're just off. You wake up in a bad mood. I try to approach my feelings with curiosity and openness. Wouldn't that be cool? How many people do that? You know, you wake up in a bad mood and it's like, rah, rah. But how about, I wonder why I'm in a bad mood today. But you know what I'm saying? You can reframe it. You can reframe it of, wow, so what happened? Rinpoche did this to me once. I was going along. I was a lay person. I did a Vajrasattva retreat at Laudo. I took a sabbatical from Vajrapani for a few months. I took and I went to Laudo, do retreat, and then it's a deep purification retreat, Vajrasattva practice. So in a couple months I did this retreat, number of mantras, and then I did these other practices as well, purification. I did it so well, I purified my boyfriend right out of my life. Okay? So Rinpoche, at the end of my retreat, I got a letter. I was supposed to get my boyfriend coming to the retreat place, and I was going to show him Laudo. He was going to fly from California. Brian, maybe you remember Brian? My last boyfriend before I got ordained. So he was going to fly, and instead I got a letter. You know, not my boyfriend. I got a letter from my boyfriend. Very unsatisfying, right? And so then he became Rinpoche's second attendant as a lay person, and I went back to California, and we tried to live together. We were living together anyway, but we had a couple more years in that role with him being Rinpoche's attendant. He was traveling most of the time. When he wasn't traveling, he would come home to our cabin and he would sleep for a day or two, and then he'd go back to Rinpoche's house, California. So I was going along for a while, feeling like, you know, and both of us, we were both like, we can do this. You know, because everybody thought he'd get ordained, and we're like, we can do this. We're going to do this. So we went along for a while, and I was feeling really good about it and all that. And then something went south. I don't know. I just didn't feel good about it anymore. It's challenged. It's a standard, natural thing. So at one point, I was having a really hard time at one point. 1 month, I was just really kind of down. It was very difficult. Things at the center were difficult. And so I was with Rinpoche, and we were walking up the hill at one center, another center in California. And then I was talking to Rinpoche about it, like trying to, and then Rinpoche turned to me and he said, "What changed?" Curiosity. Like he turned and he was trying to get me to, and he said, what changed? Because everything was fine. It's still me. Everything was fine. And then something changed. And if I could see what changed, I would know how to put it in perspective. I would know what to do, how to fix it, how to at least work with it and say, oh, right. What changed is I was just thinking about myself, what I wanted. I wanted my boyfriend back. He was helping me at the center. I wanted things to be the way they were. I wanted him focused on me. That's what changed. When I analyzed and went through and I went, okay, well, I was that, and then we did that. And I said, what really is the difference? And the difference is he's not that focused on me anymore. But I wanted him to do the position, and I really like the idea of focusing on others. It's the premise of my life, but the self-cherishing I comes back. Me, myself, and I. What about me? So it's very interesting to have the curiosity of, I went to bed last night in a good mood, so what happened? Sometimes it's a little karmic bubble comes up, negative bubble arises, and then it takes over for a while. So curiosity, and then it says, and openness. Okay, I'm just gonna let the bad mood waltz by. Just be open to what it's showing me. Okay? So the other thing is we get this tricky part in this kind of high cost of our modern lives right now. And we lose the interdependency. We lose that and basically we move away from any kind of communal existence. And I don't mean you have to live in a commune, but you're in a workplace, let's say. You're in a community, in a neighborhood. How do you work with that? My neighborhood, when everybody puts their recycling out, they put the plastic bins out. I don't know how it works here. Put plastic bins out on the curb, recycling. If it's a windy day, they empty the recycling in the morning. Many people work all day, they're not home. So the bins blow into the street. You gonna leave them in the street? They don't all blow in the street, but my neighbors blew in the street. I'm gonna go over and put it by their garage door. That's my communal experience. No big deal. They would do it for me. Because we're interconnected. In fact, we're interdependent. If I don't want to put it back there, then I might hit it with my car. It might roll into my car. So we move further away from that because of all the modern concerns, the competitiveness, weighing yourself up against someone else. And this places a huge burden of making sense of our existence, okay, upon the shoulders of each one of us separately. Isn't it easier to hold something up when you've got a few people holding it up with you? Why do you have to do it alone? Why do you have to do it alone? A dear friend of mine was here yesterday. So she is, going to go through some surgery. She wants to do it alone. I tried to talk her out of it. She has this, she goes, well, it's just, and I said, what was I just talking about? Like, why go through this? Why put this burden? Why do we overburden? Because we've got this sense that we are the he-man, he-women, I can do it by myself, because that's strength. It's not anymore in this culture. I don't think that's strength at all, to do it alone. The President of the United States has a cabinet and Congress. It just acknowledges a position like that. Nobody does it alone. Why do we have to do it alone? Okay? And because then each of us has to create his or her own meaning, you become obsessed with what you accomplish. So, and then you define your personal identity and you evaluate your self-worth based in terms of your work. And then it's like, this is particularly with white society. People of color don't always do this. White society, with the confidence of that, you meet new people, what do you do? What do you do? That's not how my friends of color tend to interact first off, because often they're unemployed. So the first thing isn't, what do you do? It's kind of like, who are you? Where do you live? What are you about? What do you like? Who do you hang out with? Right? So it's something, so then when you hear the what do you do, and if you're in between jobs or you're unemployed or you're kind of not feeling great about the work you're doing because other people will judge you, the self-worth goes down. So this performance obsession, we forget that we're all interdependent again. I think and it really eats away at the self-compassion, and then our self-esteem goes down. So then we have low self-esteem, this pattern. I've talked about this before. You start to write stories based on this. We all have stories. I never do anything right. I don't deserve to be loved. I'm a screw-up. Am I worthy of being loved? Do I deserve to be happy? Why should good things happen to me? I know somebody thinks that. Why should good things happen to me? Right? Something good happens to you and you think the sky's going to fall in. Why? Right? If you're fundamentally good, you deserve good to come back. Sometimes bad things happen. Absolutely. That's samsara's nature. Okay? So we're also terrified of letting go a little bit because we think we'll lose control of our lives. Something bad might happen. Oh, that's okay. I got plenty of water. Yeah, thank you. I got plenty of water. No, great. Thank you. Thank you. We're terrified of letting go a little bit, that we'll lose control of our lives. Something bad might happen, so I will blame myself. Okay? You're afraid if I'm gentle, if I'm kind to myself, if I relax a little bit, I might not accomplish anything at all. You know? I could see with one person here yesterday who very wisely took a break. Thought it was a very great example. Took a break. But part of what can play in the mind, I'm not saying this was playing in the mind of this person at all, what can play in the mind is, oh, I need to be there. I'm the person. I need to tell people. I had that running centers. I need to be there. You know, how self-important can you get? You're doing your responsibility. Sometimes you're tired. Ask somebody else for help. Can you just cover, please? That's wise. That's wise. People joked about Vajrapani. In the end, I was there, director, maybe 8.5 years. The first 4 years were hard. I would characterize them hard, difficult. It was like the last few years, the center ran on its own. We were doing so well. It just seemed to be cruising right along. I mean, not that we didn't have problems, but like that. And I had days off. It was like a normal life you could have. I wasn't working all the time. And everybody was like that. Everybody had breaks, time off, doing really well. So everybody had balance. And it went really well. And we all were feeling really good about what we were doing. It's nice. You can get to that place with. So having this idea, I can't let go because of the control, the only thing you can control again is your mind. The only thing you can control is your mind. So otherwise, the other thing is cracking the internal whip is exhausting. Constantly exhausting. You're struggling against this voice of judging yourself all the time, just to go on. I need to be I need to do this. I've done this at centers. I was miserable. I made everybody miserable around me. Everybody miserable. And it alienated guests from coming. Like that. It's not a great place to be in. So then we get into, and my last boyfriend and I, we got ordained together, actually. Yeah, that was a great way to break up. I always told him, I'm like, best way to break up. We did get ordained together. It was wonderful. It was really great. And just the ripening, the couple karma and all that, and how it actually happened was really great. Okay, self-neglect. Self-neglect can be a form of escapism. Oh, let me ask, please. We have another hour. We should maybe take a break at some point. Yeah, people need a short break. We'll take a short break in a few minutes. Okay. Self-neglect can be a form of escapism. Okay, when you're sorting out other people, that's easier than sorting out myself. Right? We always have that. You can see into somebody else's relationship to tell them what needs to happen, but I'm not going to look at my own relationship. So I escape from having to self-reflect or self-care. Okay, it doesn't prove very healthfully, actually. And then we have a thing of what I would call pathological altruism. And Jimpa mentions this, pathological altruism. I'm going to busy myself up taking care of everyone else, okay, because I'm too terrified to look inside. I know several people like this. Dharma centers are breeding places for this. You have to be really careful because we're all geared to be available to help all other beings. Okay, but until you're a Buddha, you're going to be limited in helping all other beings. And you're going to need some breaks. So, but we get into this thing, no, I need to be there, I need to do it, that's not actually the best way to serve the Dharma Center. And I could say that's why the Dharma Center needs more volunteers so other people can get breaks, okay? But no, it is helpful. So be careful of the pathological altruism. I'm really doing this for others, totally neglecting myself. And then you will be of no use for others at all. I think it's pretty obvious, the benefits of self-compassion. I think it's pretty, then we'll take a break, meaning you renew your resources. You renew your resources. I was just talking to somebody recently who said, you seem to have a deep reservoir. I don't know what the word was that you used. Deep reservoir of my own resources. I do retreat. I meditate every day. I need that. That's my thing. I'll say I need it. I'm sorry. I do. If I'm going to be out here and I want to be calm and balanced in the world, I have to do that. I insist upon it. The lamas do. Lama Zopa Rinpoche comes to stay with you. I don't think he sleeps. I don't think he really sleeps much. He never has. From I could see from long ago to now. Now sometimes you'll notice him looking like he's dozing in a car when you're driving, but he really doesn't sleep much. And there's a kind of round-the-clock crew trying to keep up with when he has certain things he wants to do, practices like that. And then when I was staying in a house with him a few times for many days, so he didn't even speak till 1 PM because he was doing his practices. We don't have that luxury. You can create that luxury like that. So, for instance, when I go back to my father's, I can have more time when I need it in the morning, if I want to do it in the morning, and I can have more time to be quiet, to be silent, to do the stuff to renew myself. That's my self-compassion, to do it, to know that I have limits, so I need to do some certain things like that. You're recharging, in a sense, your inner battery with some sort of self-compassion practice. It manifests differently for everybody. And mine changes as well. Sometimes it's taking a bath. Sometimes going out for a walk. Sometimes it's eating chocolate or watching a movie, like that. So you avoid the burnout. Another benefit, you set realistic goals. You set realistic goals because you know your limitations. I didn't used to do that. I could do everything, right? And then I get really resentful. Wasn't very helpful. You learn from your experience, another benefit. Because you're less likely, once you're practicing self-compassion, less likely to get stuck in self-judgment, defeatism, things like that. Because I realize, oh, that's where I used to go in my mind. No, I don't have to go there anymore. I'm okay. I don't need to access that little song on the MP3 player. That's done. I've deleted it. You feel less alone. You're kinder, you're happier to yourself, and you're kinder and happier in the world. So mainly it comes back again to connection. Comes back to connection. 2 keys going forward, things we can change, are how we define ourselves as individuals and the sense of connection we feel with others. How you define yourself as an individual and, not or, and the sense of connection we feel with others. So the stronger your sense of separateness, obviously the weaker your feeling of connection with others. The less I feel connected with others, the less I feel connected with myself. Please check on that one. So then you end up being disconnected from your own feelings, your own needs, your own joys, like that. And one example of that is, I mean, maybe, and Jimpa mentions like 2008 economic crisis, people that were overly identified with their jobs and their financial wealth, their stock index, whatever, the stock portfolio, when that went down, their whole identity of themselves, self-esteem went down. Do you want to be that self-focused, that narrow-focused? If you're more balanced, you've got your investments, you're a business person, got your work, got a family, you've got friends, you got a practice. I go to this Dharma center, I do some physical activity, I volunteer, I got this whole stuff. So the stock market's crashing, it's like, okay, whoa, I need to check on that, but I've got all these other things in my life. And they're going to support you. And so what happens, all the components, all the fingers of it, so when one of them gets a little bruised, I've got some other things to rely on, to work on. And through that, you make connections to help you. If you lost your job, they're going to help you, support you. You're having financial problem, those other connections will help support you. So before we take a break, I want to bring in right now traditional, what we started Friday night or Saturday morning, the traditional view of developing bodhicitta. So in this expanding open heart, keeping it open, I also want to talk about the traditional view that relates to compassion, of course. And this is how to develop bodhicitta, So there's two methods to develop this enlightened attitude, where you are fully cherishing others more than yourself. One, again, is called the 6-point cause and effect method. Some people call it 7-point cause and effect method. It's the same. From Master Sir Lingpa from Indonesia, who has since reincarnated as Dagri Rinpoche, who lives in Dharamsala, India. The second method was more secret, from Master Shantideva, called equalizing and exchanging self with others. So the open method starts again, and both of them have a basis of equanimity. And what equanimity means is equal regard, equal respect for all beings, whether they harm you or help you. So equanimity is, and there's an equanimity meditation that's famous, friend, enemy, stranger. You know, we like our friends. I'm going to gravitate to them. I don't like our enemies. I move away from them. Strangers, I don't have much of an opinion. Okay? But what you realize, some of you were involved in relationships before, intimate relationships, right? And you broke up. Happened to anybody in here? Right? You broke up. Sometimes you don't even want to see that person again. Isn't that amazing? And they might be somebody you had kids with. But I want them out of my life, out of my house. I never want to speak to you again. And tremendous anger. Here's somebody was in the friend category. Whoa, now they're all the way over here. I've had my last boyfriend, he was hired by the center right when I got there. Basically, I was like, that was the day I started, was, do you want to hire this guy? We hired him part-time, and then he drove me crazy. He didn't show up, nobody knew where he was, he had another job, we couldn't call him, he never answered. It was very irritating. People were like, where is he? Where is he? He's supposed to be doing this. I don't know. It was really, first few months, it was very irritating for me, right? And then something changed. And he went from the enemy category. First he was stranger. I met him. Hi, how you doing? I remember that meeting. Hi. Stranger. Then he moved over. First he was a little bit over here, then he went over here. Enemy. Then a few months later he went over here. It's like that. So it's all the same. They just interchange. So why are we dividing somebody? You're okay, you're not okay. You can be friends with everybody. You can have an open heart towards everybody. Because, again, they have a seed of goodness. They have Buddha nature. Everybody has the potential. Fundamentally good. Everybody. So then I noticed on retreat, I can't remember if I told this story in here about my stranger. I was on a 7-month retreat at Vajrapani when I resigned, and I was doing lots of different meditation on the Lam Rim. And then I was doing my friend, enemy, stranger. And my stranger, for the whole time I was in retreat, when I would ever do that meditation, I used a woman at our local health food store named Lisa. Did I mention this in here? No. Okay, I mentioned, so I had Lisa, was my stranger. I knew her name. I knew her first name. I saw her in the store. Hi, how you doing? That's all I knew about her. She was pleasant, but I didn't have any opinion about her, one way or another. 7 months with Lisa, okay? Not every day, but so I finish retreat. I end up in the health food store, not thinking about her, just I'm in the health food store, and there's Lisa in one of the aisles, restocking, right? I was so excited to see her. I mean, it was weird, and I was really like, it's Lisa, like she was my best friend. And I came down the aisle, like, I forgot, you come out of retreat like that, and you're like all soft and like in love with everybody. I came down the aisle, and I saw her, and I said, Lisa, hi. She doesn't know me. She knows me from the store, but she was like, hi. Like, and then I realized, I went like, oh. But see, that's how she became my friend from this meditation. Suddenly I'm reaching out, like, wow, connected to her, feeling connected. So based on equanimity, both of these methods are based on that. First step in 6-point cause and effect is all beings have been your mother, because we've discussed already beginningless mind. Because of beginningless mind, you've had countless rebirths. Potential is there. So potential is there for all beings to be your mother. So suddenly realize, and I'd like you at the break to kind of walk around and just look at everybody as if they've been your mother. Interrelate to people like that. That potential's there. You may not have had a good relationship with the mother of this life, but there's somebody in your life like that, a mentor, a father, someone like that, a parent, grandparent, that has nurtured you beyond, completely unconditionally. So that kind of feeling, somebody, and all beings have had that potential experience with me, that's pretty extraordinary. Pretty extraordinary. Number 2, remember the kindness of your mother. So it might be your particular mother carrying you inside, what they watched to eat, drink, how they took care of you, and the vitamins and the doctor's visits, getting you out of their body, not any easy feat, raising you, teaching you how to walk, dressing you, bathing you, on and on and on, and it doesn't end. I'm amazed now with my friends, with their children in their 20s. How many of you have kids in their 20s? Right? So these are people now, adults, and they're trying to get out in the world. It's a challenging world to some degree. So you think you're done and you've lived through the teenage years, so you think I've made it. Like, I'm out of that now, I've made it. Like, trying to get your kids out to make sure that they can make a living and live on their own and it's very challenging. I have friends very challenged by that right now. They're not able to get a job. One kid is bipolar. Different things. Where are they going to, it's not done. You have to make sure they get educated, they get this, and slowly, and they start moving out on their own, and they can live on their own. Like that. Very challenging. So you remember the kindness. If you don't have particularly good relationship with your mother or a parent, you can remember the kindness of somebody else or other mothers. You can also reflect on the kindness, and you can do these in deeper meditations. Kindness of all sentient beings, all mother sentient beings. So what's that about? This center, for instance. I remember the last center they had. Okay? It was also nice. But they didn't own it. They were paying rent. They couldn't develop it in a certain way. They didn't have a stupa. They didn't have much of a children's program. So slowly, out of the kindness of people thinking, I kind of found this really cool set of teachings. And then I wonder if some other people would be interested, in a small group of friends started studying, and suddenly you want a place. And you go, we should study together. And then it's in people's living rooms. That's how the Dharma centers start in the West, basically. And then finally you outgrow and you go, we really need to get a place. And so out of the kindness, putting up the resources, let's rent a place, let's look around for a space, let's decorate the space slowly, let's find a teacher. Can we support the teacher? How are we going to do that? And it goes on and on. Due to the kindness of others, we're here. Every prayer flag that's hung, every electricity bill that's paid, what they decide they want to do on the floor, that they want to make the stupa, every book that's put out, all the kindness of others. But everywhere, The fact that you can drive out of here and there's a good infrastructure in the Raleigh area is due to the kindness of others. The fact that people stop at four-way stop signs and traffic lights is kind. Right? There's so many ways you can look at kindness. People that wait on you in restaurants, they come over, they're pleasant. That's so kind. It's so kind. I've seen in other places, in other parts of the world, where it's not like that as much. Or you can't go to restaurants. They don't have restaurants like that. So much kindness. On and on you can think about it. I was thinking, when Lama Zopa Rinpoche, we hosted him in San Francisco many years ago, and we had a center in a nun's house, but it wasn't big enough for this program we were going to do with Rinpoche. So we had to set everything up. We rented a church across town. San Francisco has more four-way stop signs than any place I've ever lived. So I'm driving Rinpoche across town, and we're a little bit late, and there's four-way stop signs every block. You know, and now I'm getting more and more irritated. Rinpoche's next to me, and I'm like, another stop. And then one stop sign we come to, finally there's a stop sign, all four cars pull up together. It's supposed to be the person on the right goes, but we're all on the right of somebody. We're all there, and I'm like, you know, steam is coming out of my ears. Rinpoche knows my mind totally, and then Rinpoche says, of course, so kind, everybody stops. Right? So he knows exactly my mind. So immediately it just I realized, like, instead of focusing on me getting through the stop sign, he's focusing on the kindness. So it totally, keeps you gentle, spacious, open, because I'm not sitting in me, myself, and I. Okay? So remembering the kindness. Number 3, repaying the kindness. Repaying the kindness. You can visualize in a meditation, how would you repay the kindness of your mother or father or all mother sentient beings? You let people in front of you with their car. They forgot to signal. Did you ever get in the wrong lane? Yeah, sure. Let somebody in front of you in the supermarket. Yeah? You can go a little slower with your car. You can listen to your partner when you go home. You can trade off roles and stuff. You can get coffee for a coworker when they didn't expect it. You can we don't have this anymore actually here, but remember tolls? On the road, you'd pay a toll. We used to pay for the person behind us. So fun to see their expression. You see them go and you see them like, they're like, what? You paid my toll? Okay. Maybe not over the Verrazano-Narrows Bridge, which costs like $47, but okay, No, it's not that much, but so many, think about repaying the kindness. Traditionally, they say if your blind mother was about to wander off a cliff, wouldn't you run over to help her? Of course you would. So where can we, metaphorically, run over to assist somebody? Again, with compassion, wisdom, not insinuating yourself in between where you're not needed, but evaluating. That's your wisdom. Can I help here? Should I get involved? I think I can. I'm going to do it. Oh no, I don't think I can. I don't think this is my business. Okay, repaying the kindness. Number 4 is turning the view a bit. So instead of all beings have been your mother, it's as if they're your children. As if they're your children. So you generate great love the way we feel about kids. We want our kids to be happy. Generating that loving feeling. And then the next step is generating great compassion, maha karuna, where you really wish all these beings to be free of suffering. The 6th point is generating the altruistic intention. I myself will sign up for it. I'm going to dedicate my life to trying to really invest myself to free others from suffering as much as I'm able to do. And that results in bodhicitta. 6th point, cause and effect. The second method is secret. The reason it was secret is it's a little bit radical, like radical compassion. Resting on a foundation of equanimity. The 2 first points are related, where you would consider all the advantages of cherishing others and consider all the disadvantages of cherishing yourself. In Lam Rim books, they're specifically listed. But you can understand, when you're thinking about yourself, you're miserable. you again have to check your mind. You have to really check when the next time you're unhappy, please see if you can evaluate in the moment, go back to your cushion and see if you can figure out what tipped you. It was great when Rinpoche said to me, what happened? And I went back and I checked. Each time I go back and I went, and I'm like, it's just all about me. That's what happened. That's not making me happy. Can I change anything? So initially it's hard to change it because we're so ingrained to think about ourselves, and our culture and our society tends to promote that a bit. Not always. So then it's nice to hang out with people and build your own community of people that are like-minded, okay, that aren't as competitive and posturing themselves in negative ways and self-critical and criticizing you and things like that. Okay? So those two, again, evaluating the advantages of cherishing others and looking at reflecting on the disadvantages of cherishing yourself. The third point is to do the exchange. It's called equalizing, exchanging oneself with others. You're not turning into someone else. It's an attitude. And we have this expression in our culture, put yourself in someone else's shoes. So it's like that. You're looking out through their eyes. So you have a fight with someone. I think we've done this meditation before in here. You have a fight with someone, and you're so angry at them. And we could just take, some of you are, I'm not saying everyone in here, some of you have trouble with the president right now. Put yourself in his shoes. And you can say, well, he's rich, yes, he's... Oh, come on. Rich people, it's not ideal at all for them. Complications. We don't know at all what's going on in his relationship. Or his wife is not living with him now because their son is in school. Fair enough. So she's in New York for the most part. He's in the White House. I read some article that the staff goes home early, which isn't usual. They go home early. Somebody was saying, so they're not working that hard, which for some people they might think that's a good thing. Okay. Go home early. He gets in his bathrobe and he walks around checking out stuff at the White House. I don't know. Maybe he's okay doing it. But I just think about that. You've got this burden now. You've got to figure this out. There's meetings all the time. There's people that need your attention all the time. There's cameras in your face all the time. Anything you say is going to be recorded and put out there all over. You're frustrated. Nobody listens to you. Nobody understands you. Everybody's attacking you. What's that like? Look out through his eyes. What that could be like. I don't think it's all pleasant. Presidents get woken up a lot in the middle of the night. He's not going to like that. Because he wasn't as much an ordinary being. He was a wealthy businessman who could dictate and control whatever he wanted to do. That's not the scene now. He's on our tab. So he has to answer to certain things and be at these meetings and show up in a certain way. That's a drag, frankly, for somebody like him. So you really do this exchange. You're fighting with someone. You're having a fight at work, fighting with your spouse. For a moment, all I'm considering is my view. It's about my view. I'm right. My view, I'm right. You don't listen. Maybe they did do something wrong. Okay, did you ever consider their motivation? Are they badly motivated? Right? I don't really think Donald Trump's badly motivated. Really don't think so, right? Are they badly motivated, this person? But I never considered the motivation because I'm in here in my reality. Oh, wonder what their view is. Do you know what's in their mind? Unless you're highly realized, you don't know what's in their mind. So you start to really reach over, exchanging what is their experience, what is going on for them. Do I know this coworker that I'm fighting with, that they got up and they didn't feel well this morning? That their kid has leukemia? That they're having financial problems? That they overbought their house? They can't really afford the mortgage, but now they've moved. They're having problems with their partner. They hate their job. They hate working with me. Right? We don't know. And then suddenly you're looking out through their eyes. What would it be like to fight with you? What's that like? Is it okay? Do you always win? Right? It's something to think about. What's it like to fight with you? There they are. So you do the exchange. And then what you can do in a meditation at this point Put yourself in someone else's experience, and at that point, after you've considered all those possibilities about them, you look out through theirs, then you go back into your experience and you say, okay, I'm going to take myself into the situation again, the argument. You've already gone through the argument, how it went. You're going to stop it, roll it back to the beginning, and now you, from your side only, you get to do it in a new, positive way. They can say exactly the same things they said. You're going to counter now with new behavior. You're going to role play new behavior. This is where you rehearse, where you practice. And you're going to do it again and again and again until one day you're in front of them again, they push the button and say those things, and some new behavior gets automatically activated. That's very exciting. So that's our practice as Buddhist practitioners. Exchanging oneself with others. The fourth part of this method is Tonglen meditation. Tonglen meditation. You're taking the suffering of others, you're giving them your happiness. That's why it was radical. And if you leave here and you go off to tell somebody that's not into the Dharma at all, this is what we were talking about. We should take on everybody's suffering and give them happiness. I don't think it's the smartest thing to do, because they won't understand the context that it's in. And they'll go, that's crazy. Who wants to take on suffering? Those Buddhists, they're... So this is a high-level practice, Tonglen. It doesn't harm you. You imagine a constricted knot of your selfishness in your heart center. And every time you breathe in, you imagine whomever you want to do it with. You can do I always start with myself. Think about my suffering a little bit. Imagine if I was free of suffering. How fantastic. But I suffer. I'm going to take it, I'm going to breathe that in. Every time I inhale through my right nostril, it goes to the seed of self-cherishing, eliminates, purifies, reduces it. And then I offer in whatever visualization represents happiness, joy, I give that to my front visualization, or whomever I'm putting in front of me. Circular breathing. Inhale, exhale. Inhale the suffering, exhale the happiness. And whatever images represent that to you. Tonglen, taking and giving. You first take the suffering, because you can't offer the happiness to people if they're full of suffering. So you keep taking the suffering, offering the happiness. That's the method of equalizing, exchanging self with others. Let's take a break. Just how about 5 minutes? We don't have that much time left. 5-10 minutes. I want you to consider a little bit of some of the things we talked about with Kristen Neff's questions. How good are you with self-compassion and self-care? What do you get looped into with when you're not practicing self-compassion, that you get toppled? Any conversations about the methods to develop bodhicitta? Okay? Thank you. I just want to go to this section. A little bit of where do we take it from here. These are some general things that you're doing of how to build more compassion in ourselves. And I also want to bring in Brené Brown, I've mentioned before, about vulnerability, the one who says that vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity, innovation, creativity, and change. So she actually talks about 10 guideposts for wholehearted living, wholehearted again. This is all open. But part of it, if you go to Thupten Jinpa's compassion training, are basic mindfulness practices as well. Like you're noticing, you're constricting. What about deep breathing? These are just basic stuff some of you know. What about reminding yourself about the spaciousness of the mind? The real nature of the mind is it's clear and knowing. So there's various exercises you can do to remind yourself of that, of meditating on the nature of mind. Loving kindness meditations, compassion meditations. And even Archbishop Desmond Tutu again, they're all saying the same thing in a way. It is through weakness and vulnerability, again, that word, that most of us learn empathy and compassion. And he says, and discover our soul, because Christianity has this belief in the soul, but to learn empathy and compassion, and in a sense, an interconnectedness with all beings, only benefits.